Hi, John here. In my last video, which was the 2024 annual review of our energy performance, I said I would do separate videos covering the air-to-air units, and this is indeed the separate video covering the air-to-air units. Most of you know already, if you follow this channel, that we have a 7 kilowatt air source heat pump fitted in July 2023. That feeds the wet radiator system. You may be asking the question to yourselves, why are you getting air-to-air units as well? And that's a fair question. In the photograph there, you've got our two outside studios. So we've got a photography studio on the left and our fused glass studio on the right. Whilst we have the air source heat pump to do our central heating in the house and our hot water, we don't have anything in the studios apart from Jill has a little mobile fan heater, 3-pin plug jobby. And in my photography studio, I've got some infrared heaters, which are okay, but that's only one side of the coin, as it were, heating. We also want to look at cooling. And the trigger for that was we're finding more that the glass studio than the photography studio is getting very hot. Now, for example, this day here that we're looking at is the 25th of June 2024. And it was a very warm day, 29.6 degrees. And this is taken from our local Rushton weather guru, who just lives around the corner. This chart is the temperature sensor in Jill's glass studio. And this is for the same day, the 25th of June. And this is at 2:15 in the afternoon. And you can see the temperature there is 34.7 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a tad warm. If we're running courses, it's really quite unbearable for our customers to be sitting in that kind of temperature. And whilst there's no heating on, there's no kilns on or anything like that, it just gets that warm because it's sort of got a tin roof on it and it's very well insulated, so it sort of picks up heat during the day and retains it. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to get cooling in there to make it more acceptable and refine the conditions. Whilst we were thinking about this, we then thought, well, let's go the whole hog and do the house as well in the rooms that require it. So this is our kitchen extension we had done about 10 years ago, and it's very open plan, and there's a lot of glass there as well as Velux units up above. And whilst that's awesome because it gets nice light in there, it does mean that the room can get very hot. Now, we do have the ability to control the heating in there, and I'll talk more about that in a minute and show you. But on that same day, late on in the afternoon, so 5:30, as you can see there, it was getting up to 26.6 degrees indoors. So there's another shot of the patio doors. They're the individual separate doors rather than bifold doors, so you can have as many or as few open as you like. Here we've got the whole lot open, so that's 6 meters wide. That's a lot of glass. And we do have these blinds here, shielding blinds, which we used on that particular day. And that's why it didn't get as hot as the glass studio. So even though it's more of a sort of greenhouse because of the amount of glass, it retained some of the coolness because we put these blinds down and stop the heat from coming into the house, so the solar gain. We've also got the similar thing on the Velux, which the Velux are actually a little bit more efficient because they've got solar blinds on the outside. You can see the frames there, and those little black panels are the solar panels, so they run off solar. There they are down. And they're supplied by Velux, and they block out 90% of the heat without blocking all of the light. So this is them being activated by yours truly. The eagle-eyed of you will notice in the background there's the indoor air conditioning unit fitted above the picture. And whilst that's okay, we really wanted to be able to benefit from having separate controllable heating and air conditioning in there. Similarly with the bedroom, the master bedroom, it's again the same day. Temperature up there was 26.2 what time was that? 7:45 in the evening. Still quite warm in the evening and uncomfortable. So we decided to do air conditioning in the 2 studios and also 2 rooms in the house. Looked for all the options. I spoke to Mark from JMR Heating, who installed our heat pump, and he recommended the Panasonic range based on the fact that they were very reliable and efficient, suit our needs basically. So we ran through the brochures, had a look, all seemed to look right. Had the ability to link into Home Assistant as well, which is what I wanted, whereas not all of the other ones I looked at did. So I'm sure there are alternative options, but anyway, these are the ones we went with. We got a quote which came in at just under £10,000, which I accepted. This big pallet then arrived. So what have we got? 2 units on the bottom there, the big brown boxes are the external units. So this is the first one. Crazy numbers, don't really mean anything to most people, but there are 32 units refrigerant. And this is the bigger one, which is 7.5 kilowatts, and it's got a SEER of 8 and a SCOP of 6.2, and A+. Now, it's got really a bit confusing while I was doing the research, because there seems to be lots of ratings and all different ratings. So here's a quick overview for you. This is the sort of general theme that I've been able to pull from the research that I've done. So SEER, Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio, is over a cooling season, so over a longer period of time. And the higher the number equals better. And it's worked out as a ratio of the BTUs, British thermal units, to the energy actually consumed. So it comes out as a number. You'll also see EER, which is Energy Efficiency Ratio, which is just at a moment in time as opposed to the seasonal over a longer period of time. And that's similar with the next one is COP and SCOP. You'll see both. So coefficients of performance, if you're familiar with heat pumps, you'll be familiar with this term. So COP is performance at a moment in time. Again, higher the number, the better. Whereas SCOP is seasonal over a longer period of time. And I've read in a couple of places that SEER is for cooling and mainly North America rating, whereas COP is for heating. But again, there's other websites which said, no, that's not the case. So I'm not really sure, but anyway, that's what they mean. You've also then got the European Union energy rating, A, then whatever it is, A, B, C, D. A+++ is basically the pinnacle of energy efficiency. So if you're looking for the most efficient, that's what you need to look for. There you go. So a very, very high level recap of what all those numbers and acronyms mean. So our 2 units, bigger one and slightly smaller one for the 2 studios on the left, the number 2 in the bullet point there. They're the SCOPs and COPs of those overall. Interestingly, as you'll see when I look at the rating plates later, there's a rating for heating and there's a rating for air conditioning as well. Heating rating is normally a lot more efficient. They're a lot more efficient at heating than they are at cooling. There you go. And then on top of those, these 4 boxes are the indoor units. So I've got one large one, which is the one in the large dining room. 2 go into the studios, and then 1 smaller one into the bedroom. The numbering system there, I have actually managed to work that out. So the 71 in the number 1, CS-Z71, is 7.1 kilowatts. Consequently, number 2, Z35, 3.5 kilowatts. And then the other one on its own, number 3, the smaller one, Z25, is 2.5 kilowatts. So this is the one in the photo studio. It's a bit of a mess in there, so apologies for that. It needs a paint as well, and there's a crack need filling in, I notice. So this is the indoor units in the middle of the room. The room itself is 9 meters by 5 meters, so it's a big old room. And that's the label on it in detail. And then this one is in the photo studio. You may have noticed under both of the units there's a fuse spur. So in commercial situations they put this fuse spur in because it's easier just to be able to turn the unit off if one goes awry rather than having to turn off the whole system. and we could still, if one unit goes down in one of the studios, we can still use the other unit in the studio, which is good, rather than having to turn the whole lot off, which is generally what you have to do in multi-splits in a domestic situation. This is the remote control. We'll talk more about control later. This is the outdoor unit. This is behind the photography studio, sitting on its rubber feet there on a bed of stones. This is the data plate for it. So I was saying earlier on about the two capacities. So you'll notice they've got a cooling capacity of 6.8 kilowatts and a heating capacity of 8.5 kilowatts. And the power input equivalent for each of them. So they are quite small. You don't hear it at all. We were initially going to wall mount it, but we decided against it just from vibrations coming through the wall, so we ended up putting it on the floor. That's the trunking for it. There's two trunkings because it's a multi-split, so there's two cassette units. The trunking nearest us goes into my studio and to the unit that you've just seen. And then the other trunking goes off round the side. This is it from the other side of the air source heat pump, tracing it back round the corner of the studio, along the back wall, return on my studio, and then it bridges the small gap between the two studios into Jules' glass studio. And that's the same bit of trunking, just photographed the other way, looking back to the back of the unit. You see it coming down the wall and then going into the unit. The black tube coming out the bottom there is the condense pipe. That's from the indoor unit, so any moisture that it picks up, it vents out or trickles out through that condense pipe into the runoff down there. We don't see a lot of water pooling out down there. This is one of the indoor units. This is the one in the dining room. The bracket going onto the wall. You see they've already cored the wall there. This is the unit on the wall, the wire coming through, waiting to be wired up by the electrician. These units have a self-cleaning facility as well, which you can run, so it cleans the inside of the unit. I don't know if all units have that. I suspect they probably do. There's the data plate on the side of the unit, if you're interested. That's it installed and finished. There's it with the picture back up. This is the one in the bedroom. This is during installation, which is why the stickers and what have you are still on there. I don't know if you noticed on that photograph that I've put some tape over one of the lights, because that's in the bedroom, and the LED indicator lights are very bright. Having since read the instructions, you can actually dim those down if you want to through the remote control. So this is the larger unit which powers the two indoor units in the home, one in the dining room and the extension, and one in the bedroom. And we've used this not too much, in fairness, mainly for air conditioning. In the summer of 2024, there was a few days where we really benefited from it. Used it, I think, once for heating. The initial thought was that we probably wouldn't really need to use it, only now and again for supplementary heating. Our air source heat pump has a design temperature down to minus 2.5, doing that from memory, degrees C. So if it stays like that for a considerable amount of time, potentially the air source heat pump will struggle to maintain temperature, and certainly if it goes below that for any extended period of time. So this is sort of a backup to allow us to boost heating if we need to. And I think we've used it, say, once, just because it was a bit chilly one morning, and just boosted it for 20 minutes or so. But yeah, mainly it's been air conditioning, which it has been a boon for. These are the pipework runs here, cooling runs. One goes up and follows the primaries for the air source heat pump. The ducting goes all the way up. And this is quite neat how they've done this. So it follows the primaries up and then goes through the wall into the loft space, which again the primaries are. And then this is the one from the dining room area, the extension, coming out, running down the wall. It sits sort of behind the current air source heat pump, the Vaillant, and then the pipework traces the similar path. The primary pipework. Difficult to photograph or video neatly, and toddles into the back of the unit. This is a view from the front of the house looking at the exterior pipework. The reason I took this is the one this side of the chimney breast, that little short length of ducting there, is the return. So the guys took the pipework ducting up the wall into the loft space, across inside the loft, back out, and then drop down. Bring the pipework into the back of the unit, because the pipework needs to go into the back of the unit, so there's a hole directly out. So it was a neat solution to the installation. Rather than having loads of ducting going all around the chimney breast and going on the outside of the house, they did it that way, which is neat. And then the black vertical pipe there is again the condensed pipe. Little box in the bottom right there is the Vaillant outdoor weather compensation sensor. As soon as it was installed, the pigeons found it and decided it was a great nesting spot. So this is like daily, this was a massive amount of poo on there. And I'm fairly sure it was from the primaries, the ducting kit that had been installed. I had to get out the step ladders and put some bird spikes on there, and as soon as I'd done that, it stopped. So I presume that's exactly what it was. But yeah, it was a real mess. So I was clearing that up almost every day before I put the spikes up there. So I ended up hosing all this off. You'd think that's like a 4-month supply there, but that was every couple of days it was like that. So yeah, there's the bird spikes I installed. Not very neat, but they work. Control-wise, I talked about the remote control. You have one per cassette unit indoors, so I've got 4 of these dotted around. I've also got it into Home Assistant. It's got its own page. It's come up with the air source heat pump. So on the left-hand side at the top is the Vaillant air source heat pump, so we can control that from there. And I've got all the stats for that underneath. And over the right-hand side, the 4 indoor units, which again you can control individually. So go into one, you can change the mode, heating, cooling, as you would expect. You can see what energy has been used, fairly standard stuff. And there's a lot of sensors. So here are all the sensors available: cooling power, current power, heating energy, etc., etc. This integration does require you to have an iCloud Panasonic account, which is the downside. It's not local controlled, which is a bit of the downside, but you need to have this app and a login on that to be able to get the integration into Home Assistant. So this is the app, so you can use either or. I tend to flip between the two depending on what's open at the time. So here are the 4 units. Going into the Glass Studio one, you can do your standard settings in here. Up the top there's the clean inside that I briefly spoke about before, so a little utility you can run to clean the inside of the unit, all the filters and what have you. You can go into power usage, day by day. This is the detail of the day in hourly slots, showing you power usage or energy usage. So they don't use very much power at all. So this is on heating mode in Dual Studio between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Initially 250 watts to get started, then ticking over at 500 watts. I don't know what the outside temperature was. Let's go back. -1 outside. So they are very economical. So yeah, you can get all the stats from there, but I can also get all of that information from Home Assistant as well. So that's our air-to-air units and why we got them. Would I have just had air-to-air units because they can do heating and cooling? I'm sure someone's thinking about that. The answer is no, not really. Yes, you can have multi-splits, and like the the outdoor unit that we've got can take up to 5 indoor units, so you can have 5 of those dotted around the house. But the logistics of installing those is quite difficult to do and consider, and there's got quite long trunking runs to get to the other side of the house. I know a lot of people, you have one unit, open all the doors and let it push through the house, which is absolutely fine if that's how they like to work and it works for them. Perfect. We've got quite a lot of rooms and they're not all in a sort of straight line of sight, as it were. It's like the office, its own little room added to the front of the house. So it's got 3 external walls and its own little roof. So it's potentially one of the coldest rooms in the building. It's also north facing as well, added to that. So it would need its own unit to be able to heat it effectively. You wouldn't just do it from heat radiated around from the unit in the dining room, for instance. It's just too far away. Similarly with upstairs, we placed it where it was, so we do benefit from having the door directly opposite it onto the landing, so we cannot leave that door open and blast cold air through all of the upstairs, but generally it just goes to the landing and then will slowly filter through to the other rooms. But it's not a perfect solution, so we decided mainly to have the air source heat pump for our radiator heating and our hot water, and then the air-to-air units were specifically for cooling, with the odd occasion for heating in the house, but mainly the buying decision was around the 2 studios to be able to make those more comfortable in the winter and the summer with heating and cooling. Any questions, drop them down below and I'll pick them up, and I shall see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.